We all love a good vacation, right? Sun, sea, and just relaxing. But what if the price you pay for that perfect getaway doesn't actually cover its real cost? Today, we're going to dive into a really clever economic tool that aims to protect paradise by making sure the price tag tells the whole unvarnished story. And for anyone in business, understanding this is absolutely critical because it really gets to the heart of the difference between the price of your product and its true cost to the world. So let's start with this really fundamental question. What is the true cost of paradise? Because, while you might know the price of your flight and your hotel, the total cost to the local environment in the community, that cost that isn't on any bill or invoice is often much, much higher. And that gap right there is where market failure really begins. And that brings us right to the core problem we're going to analyze today, this idea of the hidden cost of tourism. This is a classic economic scenario. It's where the price you pay for your own private enjoyment, well, it just doesn't account for the impact you have. And this creates a direct conflict between what's good for you, the individual, and what's good for everyone, the collective public. In microeconomics, we have a specific term for this. We call it a negative externality. Now, this is a crucial concept. It happens anytime the production or the consumption of a good or service imposes a cost on a third party who had nothing to do with the transaction. The classic example is a factory polluting a river. The cost of that pollution, well, it's paid by the community downstream, not by the factory or its customers. In tourism, it's the same thing. Every jet ski that pollutes the water or every loud party that disturbs the locals creates these social costs that just aren't included in the ticket price. For a manager, these externalities are a huge source of both regulatory and reputational risk. This slide really breaks it down perfectly. Over on the left, you've got the private costs. These are the things you directly pay for, like your jet ski rental. These are the explicit costs that a business tracks on its spreadsheet. But look to the right. Those are the social costs, the real impact on the community, things like water pollution, noise, and all that extra waste. The problem, the market failure, is that the market price is only accounting for the costs on the left. The costs on the right are being completely ignored, and that creates a really inefficient and, frankly, unsustainable market outcome. Okay, so how do we fix this? How do we make the price of that jet ski ride actually reflect its true full cost? Well, the solution lies in a core economic principle. You have to make the polluter pay. The answer is something called a Pigouvian tax, named after the economist Arthur Pigou. And the idea is actually simple, but it is incredibly powerful. You levy a tax that is exactly equal to the value of that hidden social cost. Now, the goal here isn't just to raise money for the government, it's a corrective measure. It's designed to force the market to actually account for the damage. Economists call this internalizing the externality. And for a manager, what this means is that a societal cost suddenly becomes a business cost right there on your P&L statement. Okay, let's really get into the weeds with a specific example. We're going to model exactly how this kind of adjustment works and, more importantly, analyze the strategic decisions it forces a business to make. All right, so let's imagine that economists have gone to a tourist area, they've done their studies, and they've calculated that each jet ski ride imposes, on average, 50,000 Indonesian rupiah in external damages. Now this number, this Rp 50,000, it represents the monetary value of everything from water contamination to harm to marine life to noise pollution. Now, getting this number right is by far the hardest part of this whole thing, but for our model, let's just assume it's accurate. So how does this actually work in practice? Let's walk through it. First, the government imposes that Rp 50,000 tax on the jet ski operator for every single ride. Instantly, the operator's private cost now includes the social cost. Now, as a manager, you face a critical decision. Do you absorb this new cost and just accept a lower profit margin, or do you pass it on to the consumer? Let's assume you pass it on. Well, the ticket price rises. And according to the fundamental law of demand, when the price goes up, the quantity demanded naturally falls. The market corrects itself. And notice, it's not through a ban, but through a price signal. And this just brilliantly illustrates the three key outcomes. The price goes up for consumers, which in turn reduces the number of jet ski rides down to a more sustainable level, what we would call the socially optimal quantity. But, and this is crucial, the government now collects revenue. This isn't just some tax sinkhole. These are funds that can be specifically earmarked to fix the damage. Cleaning the water, restoring coral reefs. It literally turns a negative externality into a source for its own solution. And look, this isn't just some textbook theory. Let's look at how this could actually be applied in a real destination, like Tanjung Lesung in Indonesia. As a tourist, you might see this pop up on your bill as a Reef Preservation Fee. So when you pay for a snorkeling tour, there's an extra charge included. That fee, that's a classic Pigouvian tax. It's not some random junk fee. It's a targeted charge, and it's designed to fund the protection and upkeep of the very natural asset, the reef itself, that the business and its customers both rely on. Or you could see it applied a bit more broadly, say as a tourism tax added to every hotel night. That revenue can then be specifically allocated to one of tourism's biggest externalities, waste management. This creates a really direct, transparent link between the activity generating the problem, more visitors creating more waste, and the funding that's required to fix it.
So, okay, let's zoom out. Why does forcing the market to recognize these true costs really matter? What's the big strategic takeaway here for all of us?
The key takeaway here, the big idea, is that this is about so much more than just tourism. The Pigouvian tax is an incredibly powerful model for aligning private incentives with the public good. It makes the market more efficient and more responsible by forcing the price to finally tell the truth about the full cost of a product or service. It's not anti-business. It's a mechanism to create a more accurate and therefore a more sustainable market. So we'll leave you with this question to think about. If we can actually put a price on a noisy jet ski or a trashed beach, what other hidden costs are lurking out there in our economy? What are the negative externalities in your industry's supply chain or in your company's energy use or even in how your product is disposed of at the end of its life? What other hidden costs should we be bringing into the light? Thanks for joining me.